Okay, very important topic. Let's try again. Intermittent fasting. Actually, the number one Googled, number one searched topic in our space on health. Huge, right? So everybody wants to know about it. I'll tell you why. It works. I always say this, that I would say once my wife and I, and we've been intermittent fasting for, years, 6 years or more. And I would say this, besides the cellular detox, how I got my life back, this is the number one thing my wife and I did to literally anti-age. There's a reason for that. All right, I believe that this is imperative to do on the front side of a fast. Last week, we got you in ketosis. We're getting you fat adapted. Why? Because if you're fat adapted going into the fast, number one, those first few days that are very tough, not so tough. Number two, bigger reason, is you increase this stuff called autophagy, a pathway called autophagy, where your body eats all of the bad cells, all of the bad tissues, the debris, literally breaks it down, uses it for protein, amino acids, repair, healing, all of it, and it does one other amazing thing. It raises up stem cells. But when you go into a fast, fat adapted, you get more of those benefits. Huge, and a lot of other benefits as well. Higher ketone levels, which actually heal your brain. And by the way, when you add to that this intermittent fasting, I'm telling you, you will soar. Your healing even starts now, trust me. But when you hit the fast, you will notice such greater benefits from the fast. So, fat adapted and ketosis, intermittent fasting. Wait to hear what next week is, because that really is the key to this whole thing. So you have to be with us every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and you can do the math from there. But okay, so intermittent fasting, I mean, it works. My wife and I said this is the biggest thing we did, that literally, turned back our clocks. Literally, we measured our telomeres. I am 10 years younger than my actual age at the cellular level. My wife is a teenager, okay? So I don't have her beat. I think my years of sickness took some years off, but I keep getting better, let's say that. But yeah, no, literally, this really does wind back the clock. Look, when you look at studies on anti-aging, there's so much crap out there on this, but I'll tell you, nothing holds up except one thing: eating less. Look at all the cultures. Here's the mistake we Americans make. I'll expand it beyond America. We think eating less means like pushing half of your food away, not eating to full, AKA caloric restriction. I can tell you right now, caloric restriction works good in a short term, and you're going to learn more about the fasting mimicking diet that I'm actually doing on September 23rd, and that's actually when the fast is. So stay tuned for that, because you don't have to do a water fast. We're going to give you some cool choices this time, and one of which is the fasting mimicking diet. But caloric restriction, short-term good, long-term failure, no good. And it does not work for your metabolism. It gets lower and lower and lower as you caloric restrict. So what's the key then? If I said that that is the only thing that holds up for anti-aging, then what is the key? Well, look, this caloric restriction, when you look at studies, they take and they reduce calories 30%. Animals, fruit flies, you name it, live longer. So they did what is called the Biosphere 2 project, where they actually put people for 2 years, 30% reduction in calories, failed. Guess what happened? Not the same thing as the mice. They went 2 years. That was the difference. The other studies too short. But the problem is they went catabolic. They lost organ size. Their body started eating itself. It was a disaster. Their immune system went down. So a lot of bad things happened in it. Definitely was a fail. Although certain things did happen, like the SIRT1 gene, which is a longevity gene, got triggered. But the problem is now they were more set up for infection. So ultimately, it really didn't work. So what we've learned, and I'm going to build on this, is caloric restriction short-term works. But here's something else. This is a saying that I've coined, really. Don't eat less often. Well, let me say it this way. Eat less by eating less often. And therefore, you'll get the best of both worlds. You'll get actually an anabolic effect where you actually raise growth hormone, you recover and actually keep your muscle and get fit, lean, but the best part is you live long, healthy, and prevent disease. So don't eat less often. When we look at ancient cultures, we know that ancient cultures, this is what they did. They're not pushing food away, right? Saying, okay, I'm just gonna eat half of my meal. They don't do that at all. But what they do is they eat less often. And you know, the very first time I saw this, I was not intermittent fasting. I went to Africa and I had the pleasure 3 times to spend time with one of the world's last hunting gathering tribes. They had just come out of the mountain because they literally were in a major drought, a famine, right? So they were in a fast. But at one point when I got there, they were actually eating again. But the bottom line is the men were never there. They were out hunting. They left very early in the morning. They would go out hunting all day with no food. And they would come back and the wives would gather. They weren't eating. And they would have a big meal later in the day, you know, from whatever, 3 to 6. I mean, the meal would last about 2-3 hours, you know, but that was their only meal in the day. When we look at cultures, we can emulate this because when we look at healthy cultures, they really do eat less often. You know, in Europe, we spend a lot of time in Italy. Really, the meal, they drink espresso through the day and they eat pretty much one meal. Matter of fact, in my PowerPoints and a lecture I give on this topic, I have the picture of Anna. She is amazing because she's 100. I think she's 117 now. But she talks about her one meal, some eggs, and some cookies, right? So it really is more about when we eat often than it is the foods we eat. But I think that's important as well. But this concept of intermittent fasting really is just that. So what we're doing is we're picking an eating window. And I think that's the best way to talk about it because, you know, when we think about eating in a window from 8 to 4 hours, typically I eat in a 4-hour window. So I just had my first bite of food right before this because I actually worked out this morning. So my first bite of food was that, so it was about 5:30 today. So I'm going to really eat, when I'm done here, I'm going to eat a little more. So technically today I'm really eating only one meal, probably in more like a 2-hour window. But sometimes, typically it's a 4-hour window, but 8-hour window, it still works. You get some of this autophagy in the fasting state. So that equals a 16 to 20-hour fast. Look, you don't get as much of the magic as you do in an extended fast like we're going to do for 5 days on September 23rd. However, studies show that you still get some of this autophagy where your body will eat and get rid of the bad cells. Remember, bad cells, bad DNA, cells that are immune cells that are overreacting, literally causing mischief, driving inflammation because they're living too long, they're malfunctioning. So what they do is they start overreacting to maybe foods you're eating, overreacting to pollen, overreacting just in general, driving autoimmune. So we know this process of autophagy gets rid of these bad cells, and here's the best part, then it stimulates stem cells to replace them. So now you have better healing cells, better acting cells, not hyper-reacting cells. That's why it works for things like autoimmune, hypersensitivities, allergies, etc. And it goes beyond that, and we'll talk more about that when I talk about the 7 big benefits of fasting. We're getting there because there's far more than you can even imagine. So, but this is a way to fast daily. So although the changes aren't as big when you're doing something every day, a little bit of autophagy, a little bit of stem cell production. Remember, stem cells, they go around your body and they become other cells. And that's how you recover, that's how you heal. So that's why, and that's how you make new healthy cells like white blood cells, immune cells, etc. So this is the how-to. I'm going to say that most of you should start right here with an 8-hour eating window and therefore a 16-hour fast. You could even back it up further. How do you know? Because some of you may have to. You may not feel well. You may be getting lightheaded. Oh, and by the way, when I went to that tribe in Africa, this is the first time I saw this, I was the guy, you know, insisting I had to eat 5-6 meals a day. Oh, and by the way, I probably did because I had myself so used to eating that if I didn't go with the eating, I was getting hangry, and I definitely wasn't using my own fat as energy. So that's what we're training here. We want to go into this fast trained to use our own body fat as energy. So what energy did I use all day? I worked out, I was busy all day, doing a lot of things. I was using this energy. I was using my own fat. You know, and even at 8% body fat, I promise you, you have plenty of fat I have about 60,000 stored calories of fat. I could go days. But the bottom line is we want to train our bodies to use our own fat. We don't want to keep feeding it because it'll never dig into its stores, right? So this is that process. But many of you will say, I just can't go that long. All right, so make sure your eating window works for you. How do you do it? You got to test. Here's how. You've already bought the meter. If you haven't, get it. You're going to need it. And you go to getketomojo.com. If you didn't watch the video last week, go watch the video last week and share it so we can get people doing the fast. It's more fun with more people. It's just the inspiration builds. Trust me, it does. So getketomojo.com, get the glucose and ketone strips. You'll need both, as you can see right now, right? So last week I just taught you with the meter on how to know if you're in ketosis. How do you know if you're fat adapting? Some of you by now are actually already fat adapting. You're above 0.5 on ketones, meaning that means you're burning fat and making some ketones. Some of you probably aren't there yet. Some of you may be there but still don't feel good yet because your body's not using the ketones efficiently yet. It will. Trust me, it will. Now, this is important. So in the morning, we're going to test our glucose and ketones. Let's just write these numbers down. I'll make numbers up just for the teaching moment here. So let's say you wake up in the morning and you are 92, okay? A very typical number, not the best number, but a typical number. All right, and let's say you're adapted right now. So we're gonna put you at just a 0.6. So technically you're in ketosis, very low side of it, but you're in. All right, in the morning is the best time, as I pointed out last week, to see if you're in ketosis, because your morning numbers are generally, when things are working properly, your lower numbers, especially on your ketones. Now, before your first meal, so that could be 16 hours away from your dinner. Maybe I didn't explain that well, right? So let's say you eat dinner at 6 o'clock at night. Then you're going to take 16 hours from then, and that was your fast, right? So, think about it in terms of 6 p.m. to 6, there's 12 hours. So 6 in the morning, you're at 12 hours, right? So add another 3 to 9, now you're at 15 hours. So if 10 o'clock, if you're doing a 16-hour fast, 10 a.m. would be your first meal. So 6 p.m. was your last meal, 10 p.m. would be, 10 a.m. would be your first meal. Got it? That's a 16-hour fast. You can do the math from there. So anyway, so let's just say that that's what you're doing. You're doing a 16-hour fast in this case. So now, right before your 10 o'clock meal, let's say your glucose now drops to 83, and this rises to 0.9. That's exactly what we want to see. That means that eating window is working very well for you. We want to see glucose trend down, and we want to see ketones trend up. Well, you can't just base it on one day because things can happen. If you get stressed out for some reason, your cortisol will rise, and that raises your glucose. So then technically your glucose could raise, and it was just because you got stressed out. Oh, don't test on a day you exercise, because if you exercise, it will also throw your glucose up, because when you exercise, your body dumps glucose. It's normal, it's not bad, but it will throw the test up. So do this on days, and it doesn't have to be consecutive days, but try to do at least 3 days and get an average. Days you don't work out, days you're not stressed out. If you get stressed out, throw that one out and do another day. So, and the ketones are rising is an indicator that you're burning fat. And we want to see the glucose drop, because when glucose remains high, you're really not benefiting from the ketones. And again, I'll build on that concept and why that is. But for right now, just know that it is. We want the glucose to drop. Also as an indicator that your body's actually starting to use the ketones for energy. Remember, your cells in your body, you can use fat as energy, but your brain needs these ketones. So when you're getting fat adapted, you might say, my ketones are up, but I still don't feel well. It's just because your brain's not used to using ketones yet. It'll transition. And when we go through the fast, you'll really see that. So, but the bottom line, to figure out your eating window, you want to make sure this is happening. Okay, so let's say you're testing and it's still not working right. Back your window up. So maybe instead of 16 hours, try 15, try 14. Figure out where your body's working. Just find a comfortable place where your body is, basically, not doing the wrong thing, because we at least want to see the ketones go up. If your glucose is staying around the same on average, okay, I'm okay with it. But eventually try to keep pushing your window out, to where, now you're eating in maybe a 6-hour window. And then try a window where you're eating a window of 4 hours. And again, measure this to see how you do. Some people may say, you know what, heck with it. I'm gonna really force it. Something I call mitochondrial metabolic fitness. Meaning if you force it enough, you can make it, if it adapts, if your body adapts, just like exercise. If you exercise really hard and you adapt, you get stronger. But some people, if you exercise really hard, you don't adapt, you get weaker. So I don't know where you're on there, but at least if you know what you should be doing, you can play with it. Back up, see how you do, or extend your fast a few days a week and see if you do better after a while. Because mitochondrial, that's just where your body does the fat burning, that's your mitochondria. Metabolic, meaning that's how it's burning your fat for energy. Fitness, we're gonna stress it and see if it gets stronger. So try throwing in some days where you push it out further and see how you do. Eventually, the mitochondrial metabolic fitness, you'll get better. You'll start to become a more efficient fat burner. And that's really what we're doing with the intermittent fast, is we're starting to stress the mitochondria. You're gonna go without food. You're gonna go without me feeding you. And eventually you're going to adapt to mitochondria. You're gonna get more fit. My metabolism's gonna get better. I'm gonna become a more efficient fat burner. That's the idea. You will live longer. Remember, if you want to live longer healthy, don't eat less. You can fill in the gap. Eat less often. That's what we're doing here. Something else happens. Even there's something that we can literally look at, in your blood work, and it's called NAD plus NADPH ratio. And what happens is that ratio, as it gets bigger, more NAD plus, we see people get healthier. But we see them live longer. It's a very predictable ratio. So one way we can adjust that NAD to NADPH ratio is fasting, even daily intermittent fasting. Of course, longer fast, we see a very quick adjustment. So, this is absolutely predictably, it works every time. I know what you're gonna ask. Okay, in the morning, what about my coffee? Are you thinking that? What about your coffee? Test glucose. You don't have to do the ketones on this one, although you might be testing your ketones anyway. You can just add this one extra glucose test in. So test the glucose, okay, before your coffee and 30 minutes after. Okay, stays the same or drops, you can have your coffee the way you're drinking it. If it increases more than 5 on average, and again, do at least 3 days, see what happens, not good. Okay, so then try tea, or try with or without fats. Last week I talked about putting some MCT oil, coconut oil, ghee, butter, or just raw, really grass-fed good cream. Any of those fats are good. Choose. Try it with it. If you're doing it with those fats, try without. Some people do better on this test, just black coffee. And if it doesn't do good with fats, without fats, then go to tea. Try something else. A nice warm beverage in the morning can be good on an intermittent fast. The Chinese do it to curb their appetite. As long as it doesn't raise the glucose up consistently. We know it won't break you out of autophagy. So it's pretty easy to test that. And so we don't want to take your coffee away as something warm, but we don't want to break you out of the fast and autophagy either. Okay, so Marilee just showed up. Do I have any pressing questions? Next week is my diet variation principle, feast, famine cycles. Be there. Here's my special surprise for you. Tomorrow evening, same time, my daughter will be showing her keto ice cream that's actually good for you. It's amazing, by the way. So tomorrow night, special video. Make sure it's not the typical Wednesday night, but make sure you're there. And I'm going to always pop in some special videos with some special guests. This one is my daughter, who you will love and adore. She's 22. She's going to chiropractic school, and she is carrying this mission on.
And her boyfriend maybe as well.
Yes, her boyfriend. My daughter just transforms people's lives. I can say that for all of my kids. you know, as soon as they meet them, they start teaching them these things. And her boyfriend.
He just stuck around the longest.
Yeah, it's true. But she's transformed them all. But he was on typical college kid, Vyvanse. They use this stuff. It's like Adderall. It is. They use it to study, and they use it because all the ADHD kids, every one of the diagnosis ends up on this crap and
8
ruins
years.
lives. 8 years he was on this stuff. Oh, and he had chronic sinus infections. He had.
We should bring Kyle on sometime. That would be fun.
And Marilee called him a chubby Ben Greenfield, okay? And that motivated him to do everything that my daughter Olivia told him to do. Anyways, bottom line, he showed up like, you know, lean, mean fighting machine, off Vyvanse. All his issues that he had have gone away. He had GERD. He had GERD at that age, a college
So
kid.
Olivia made him
chronic.
fast.
They had him on Tagamet. I mean, they had him on the medication for GERD. I don't know if it was Tagamet or the other one. But the bottom line was he fasted. He did all this stuff. He's doing all these things I'm teaching you. He's off the medication. He's off the GERD. All of it. He's a new man.
She threatened to break up with him.
I'll let her tell you
I'm
this.
kidding.
No, it's not true. Do we have any
No,
pressing
it's not
questions?
true. Oh,
Yeah.
on the heels of that, when you hanging out with Ben Greenfield again? Oh, in a few weeks.
Yeah, you know what?
Just be
Actually, in
done
a
in
few
couple
weeks. Yeah, I'll
weeks.
get him to do one of these. So stay tuned. You'll get to see Ben. We'll talk about it. Practitioners watching. Ben is, he's doing, when you come to our seminar, November 2nd through the 4th, and again, look for the video after this, practitioners, because if you want to talk to someone about the seminar, etc., they'll call you. Just watch the video. But he's teaching the exercises to do in a fasting state, because we intermittent fast you at my seminar. Gosh, we have great speakers. My gosh, I just interviewed Naomi Whittle today. She is the former, she stepped down, CEO of Twin Labs. She's amazing. Her number one best-selling book, New York Times bestseller, was on autophagy. She spent time in a mastermind with some of the greatest scientists in the world on autophagy. Come to the seminar just to hear her. I tell you what, I said it in the interview, I would cross an ocean just to hear her on some business principles. And she's going to give you all these business principles that she says, your people need to hear this. And she's also going to talk about autophagy. So everything she learned beyond fasting, even how to stimulate autophagy. I can't wait for that. So watch the video, practitioners, right here.
How long can you push your fast? Is doing 36-hour fasts okay?
Yeah, matter of fact, I call that even more advanced mitochondrial metabolic fitness, where once a week, twice a week, we'll say skip all your meals, and then you can eat the following day. Yeah, I do that with my really challenged diabetic cases. I do that with my really metabolic, my weight loss resistant cases, where 1 or 2 days a week. Stay tuned for next week, because really you can't just do that without doing something else. So you got to watch next week, because that is part of my feast famine cycling, and it is part of more advanced mitochondrial metabolic fitness.
Keto and intermittent fasting for 3 weeks and joint pain has increased. Do you have any thoughts as to why?
Yeah, you're just not adapting yet. And right now, this is a subject that I will build on. A lot of the symptoms like that are coming from toxin release. Your fat holds toxins. Oftentimes it's why you get fat, because as we get toxic, the body wants to save its life. It's trying to protect your brain. It will increase fat cells to stuff in the toxins. But as we lose the fat cells, out comes the toxins. There's 3 products that we use for this during the fast. And it's the only 3 products that I really allow you to do. Well, there's 2 other ones, but I don't want to complicate it. These are the ones for detox. It's the Cyto Detox, it's the Fast Tonic, and the Bind. Bind binds the stuff in the gut. Cyto binds what's systemic. In a fast, they don't push you left or right. That's why I accept them. And Fast Tonic downregulates something called hydroxy free radicals, which raise in a state of toxicity. So those 3 products help that, by the way.
All right. Can you fast too often?
Yes, yes you can. Great questions, gosh. Because there's 2 pathways. There's the autophagy pathway. There's 3 things that stimulate this amazing autophagy. Again, your body eating the bad stuff. Number 1 is no calories or low calories. Low calories still does it, right? And we're going to build on that with the fasting mimicking diet. Number 2 is low protein. When you get your protein under 20 grams a day, you'll stimulate autophagy. And 3rd is low carb. So that's why you do get some autophagy even with ketosis. The opposite now, we have a pathway called mTOR, which plant-based people, anti-aging people hate mTOR, because mTOR is an anabolic pathway where you have cell division increasing and cell growth. But you'll hear this next week because I'm going to present these two pathways. This is kind of a preview. The magic is actually a little bit of both. Too much time in autophagy, you end up catabolic, right? And I talked about that earlier on with they caloric restricted too much. You can fast too often. And over here on the mTOR side, too much protein too long ages you. But short bursts of high protein or high carbs is magic. Can't wait. I just set myself up next week. I'm telling you, share this video this week and last week, because just to hear next week, I'm blessed that I have a growing group of practitioners. We work together. You're going to hear from some of them. We experiment with different things. It's one thing reading literature, but it's another thing being able to take some of these concepts and really do something that nobody's done before. And that's what we're doing with the Feast Famine Cycling. And it's part of that answer.
All right.
All right.
Is ACV okay during fasts mixed with lemon juice and pink?
ACV, no. ACV has too many vitamins and stuff with it, so no ACV. And no lemon, just water during a water fast. During a partial fast or a fasting mimicking diet, I would say no problem, but not during a water fast.
Any dangers for low blood sugar people fasting?
Always. I mean, that's why, listen, I'm going to say this, and you'll hear me say this. If you have health challenges, look, I have a growing group of platinum, we call them platinum doctors, platinum health centers, the future doctors that I'm training. And platinum is a key word there. They know this stuff. Work with one because you need to, there's risks. Listen, if you're going to partake a fast, check with your doctor because medications need adjusted. Don't ever go into a fast without doing that because there are some things like that. Low blood sugar, there's tricks to this stuff, and I can't do it all here. I'm just like, but please, that's why I'm training doctors because this is, look, there's nothing more powerful than fasting. It is the oldest ancient therapy that we know of, and yet we have so few doctors doing this. And it is, my doctors would echo the same, that we could never help the people that we help if it wasn't for fasting, but it has to be done right. That's why supervision, if you're challenged, is very critical. Don't come off medications. So I'm already building to the fasting thing. But anyways, if you haven't been to my website, drpompa.com, be there. I've done a lot of interviews on fasting. I've done a lot of interviews on intermittent fasting. I've done a lot of interviews on ketosis. So go there. So, all right, to respect time, share this video, please, because we should have at least 20,000 of us doing this, but let's keep the group growing. But I need you to help me with that. So, all right, I'll see you tomorrow night with my daughter.
The ice cream.
And you're going to hear more from my daughter than me. I'm going to try to stay out of it.
Don't miss it.
Don't miss it.